Good afternoon, everybody. What is going on? I am jeffgrantMEDIA. In today's real user review, we're going to be taking a look at the Lems Boulder boot. Now, Huckberry did send me these boots for free, but all the opinions in this video are mine and mine alone. I did not share this content with Huckberry prior to publication. They will see this when you do. And before we go any further, these are worn, these are dirty. I wore these all weekend long. But why did I choose Lems? Well, my hiking boots decided to fall apart on me, so I needed a new pair. I went down the hunt and I had remembered seeing the Lems on the Huckberry site, and I saw this picture. And this picture just stuck with me. So when it was time to get a new pair of hikers myself, I went back to Huckberry and started reading up on a couple of their boots. And I kept coming back to the Lems because they're super light and they are super flexible. And again, that picture they sold me. That picture sold me on the boots. So when I reached out to my contact and said, hey, can we take a look at some of those Lems Boulders? He said yes. I was really excited because not only did I really desperately need a new pair of hiking boots, which immediately after getting those went in the trash, but I was really excited to give these a try because I've never had anything that's been necessarily a barefoot shoe at all. So when I got a barefoot hiker that is a ZeroDrop boot, I thought that was pretty awesome, and I couldn't wait to get them on my feet and try them out. And try them out I did the very next day. But before we get into all that, let's do a few specs on these boots. The Lems Boulder boots come in at $175 USD. They are available in two colors, Shadow and Umber, as seen here. These are a ZeroDrop boot. They are engineered in Boulder, Colorado. These are a packable boot, which is, again, one of the reasons that I really wanted to try these boots. These are waterproof, which I can attest that, yes, they are. They feature a 100% full grain upper with Lems air-injected rubber outsole to cut down on weight. Now, one of the questions I feel like I'm gonna ask quite a bit is, what is ZeroDrop? So basically what ZeroDrop means, your toes and your heel are level with each other and parallel to the ground. Now think like with a standard work boot, or most boots for that matter, your heel is a little bit raised up. So your heel is generally a little bit higher than your toes. So ZeroDrop means that they're both on the same parallel plane with the ground. So that is ZeroDrop, and it's actually quite comfortable. You see this a lot in like running shoes and things like that. But when I saw it in a leather hiking boot, I thought that was quite interesting, as well as it being a packable boot. So that was one of the other reasons that I wanted to check this out too, is I've never had a ZeroDrop boot, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And I can't say after hiking miles in these boots, they are very comfortable. Now, how did I wear these boots? Well, I feel like a mock toe is a very casual looking boot. So in addition to wearing these on the trail hiking, which I did do the very next day after I got these, I wore these casually. I wore these out and about. I wore these to work. Again, I feel like a mock toe generally makes the boot look a little bit more casual. So even though this is a hiker, this is kind of like a hybrid boot. This fits in a lot of settings. It did fit into the office space really well. It fit out casually really well. And I've been wearing these all weekend. My daughter, she's in dance, and the dance studio marched in our local St. Patrick's Day parade. It poured all day long. So choosing to wear the Lems Boulders wasn't just because I found them incredibly comfortable. Because it was pouring all day long, I found them incredibly utilitarian to wear, instead of choosing to wear like my rain boots, which would have kept my feet dry, but after about 30 minutes of standing around, my feet would have been incredibly sore. And I stood around in that rain for about 3 hours, and my feet were totally dry afterwards. I followed her during the parade route, so I wasn't just standing, but I was on blacktop, concrete, walking around, standing still. Worked really well, kept my feet incredibly dry. I've also worn them to the office building. They fit in really well there. Wore these on several shoots. They fit in really well there. And generally, I've been wearing these whenever I was a little bit sloppy out, which is quite frequently lately. This was my go-to boot because I didn't intend on babying these boots at all. You could see they're muddy, they're worn, there's mud in the soles. I've been wearing these, they're scuffed up a little bit from wearing them outside and traversing rocks and stuff. And I could say they handle the trail really well, they handle the streets really well, and they handle the office and video shoots really well. So one point of note though that I'm gonna make about wearing these casually is this little heel tab here that you can put your finger through to help slide them on. It tends to get caught on your pant leg. So if you're sitting down and you go to stand up, your pant leg might come up a little bit, but this little tab is going to prevent your pant leg from falling back down around the shaft of the boot. It's not a big deal, it's just a cosmetic thing, but if you're a little conscious about that, just check your heels and make sure that your pant leg slid down over the shaft of the boot, because a little tap, it does have a habit of just getting caught in your pants and holding them up. Now, as I said, the very first time I wore these boots was the very next day after receiving them, and it was on a hike. Now, I will say I thought it was going to be a lot wetter and sloppier out than it was. It did pour the entire day before. Last time we were on this trail, it was like oceans of water, standing water that we had to walk through. And of course, I had those old boots that were falling apart, so my feet were incredibly soaked and uncomfortable by the time we got back from the hike. So when I chose to wear the Lems that very next day, which I was grateful these came in when they did, because that was the hike we were gonna do. We planned it already. We didn't have as much standing water. I don't know what happened. A lot of that water drained off, same trail, but we did still hit a lot of sloppy conditions. And it's a very, very steep vertical climb on some flat rock, some old shale and stuff. So even though they don't have a very aggressive tread to it, they actually handled a lot of that loose and slick rock really, really well. I felt like even though I didn't have that aggressive track, I was still getting great traction. And honestly, on some of that flat, slick rock, the smooth sole, I feel like probably benefited me more than having a heel, because I was having full contact to the ground as opposed to the heel having me lifted up, and then I wasn't getting the full sole contact to the ground. They worked really, really well for that fairly steep, fairly slippery trail. Even though it wasn't as sloppy as I thought it was gonna be, they actually handled the wet, slippery conditions really well. Now the trail, the reason that these are caked in little pebbles and whatnot, there's a heritage trail, it's a river trail, it's mostly flat, it's mostly pea gravel, but we did have a flood a couple years back that flooded all that out, and they never quite fixed it or regroomed it, so it's kind of sloppy. It's flat, it's straight, it's a nice, easy trail, especially when you have a tired 5-year-old, it's really great. But I find even though that is an easy trail, it's usually one of the worst ones to take because it's generally really sloppy. And we did walk back on the train tracks, which also handled the train tracks and balancing on those slick rails really nicely, but they handled that sloppy, like crappy, muddy, like pebbly, weird. I don't even know how to explain the conditions, but it's a really crappy, weird conditions. And my daughter's shoes, they were pretty much destroyed, but the Lems, they looked fine. That's why they're a little bit muddy, because most of it kind of splashed off by the time we got back. Had to walk through a few standing puddles, nothing very deep, but a lot of the mud did splash off it. But even that sloppy, messy trail, they handled fine. I had completely good traction. I didn't have any issues, especially walking on, we had a balancing contest walking on those slick rails, although I lost. I mean, Miss Hazel Fantastic is pretty good at everything she does. Don't want to say that I didn't have a 60-pound pity mix that kept pulling me off the rail, but you know, excuses. But the Lems handled the slick rail when I wasn't being ripped off the rail really, really well. Even though they were wet, Smooth Sole was able to grip those very slick iron tracks, no problem. For work, for the office, again, I feel like this mocktail fit in really, really well. I didn't stand out in the crowd, I wasn't screaming that I was wearing a hiking boot, because these are a hybrid. You can wear these casually. There's another point of note that I did forget to mention is that I did note when I first tried these on in my initial unboxing that I felt like these had a very wide toe box to it. And someone did comment on that video and said that Lems, they all have that wide toe box. And I suspect it's because it's a ZeroDrop barefoot type shoe. So it wants your foot to allow to expand, because a lot of boots, a lot of shoes, they restrict your foot. So when you step down, your foot can't expand the way it normally would if you're barefoot. So a barefoot shoe would give you a little bit wider toe box. Now these did feel quite wide, but I was also trying them on with just like the socks I wore to work. They're thin, basic socks. And when I hiked in them, I did wear a little bit heavier sock. I'm completely comfortable hiking in them, especially with that little bit heavier sock. But even though I wore them casually, I did wear those same basic socks again, and they still felt fine. I just laced them up a little bit tighter. I did have them loosely laced because it was the first time I was trying them on. But once they kind of broke in a little bit too, like they're not completely broken in because I've only had them for about a month, but I have worn them quite a bit in that month. I've basically been wearing either these or my Huckberry Danner collabs. That's all I've been wearing essentially the past month and a half since I had them. But they did mold to my foot a little bit better, so lacing them a little bit tighter and even wearing them with like a more dressy sock, even though it has a wide toe box, they were still very, very comfortable to wear. They're very comfortable to wear standing in them, for 3 hours in the rain. They were very comfortable to do. I think our very first hike, not broken in, very first hike I did in these, very first time I wore them, was about a 4.5 mile round trip hike. I didn't have any hot spots. My feet weren't sore at all. In fact, even though these were brand new and not broken in, my feet felt better in these than in my old hiking boots. Now, granted, they were falling apart, so they were basically shot, but usually I equate a brand new boot feeling about the same as a worn out boot for the first time or two you wear them, because you have to break them in. But these were very, very comfortable to wear right out of the box, right out of the gate. And the boot itself is incredibly lightweight. They do give you a weight for a size 43, which I can't in my brain translate to American sizes, but the weight they give you is incredibly light. And this is so light. Now, my boots are a size 9.5. Lems does recommend you size up a half size in the boots, and I did that. I generally wear a size 9, like a D or an E. I wear that basically across the board. Boots, sneakers, a 9 generally fits me really, really well, but Lems recommended sizing up a half size. I did so. These fit fine, and again, I wore these right out of the box. Very first time on a 4.5 mile hike, and they're fine. Hot spots, no blisters, no discomfort, actually really comfortable to wear. So that sizing up a half size worked out for me. You know, your mileage may vary, so I'd say, you know, make sure you try them on in your house before you go wearing them, because if you have to send them back for size, once they're worn and dirty, you're stuck with them. So if you order them half size up, wear them around the house for, you know, 5-10 minutes or so. Make sure you're not getting any heel slippage or anything like that before you take them outdoors, because then you're stuck with them. So, you know, double check that sizing up a half size works out for you. It did for me. But all in all, do I think the Lems Boulder boots are worth $175 of your hard-earned money? And honestly, yeah, these are way more comfortable than I thought. I love the fact that I can bend them and fold them and roll them, and they're a packable boot. But when I put them on my feet, they're so comfortable. Like, honestly, these kind of felt like I was wearing my Gray's slipper boots. They were so comfortable, I thought I had slippers on for a while. Like, they're great. Like, I couldn't believe how comfortable these were, especially right out of the box. Wearing them around work all day long, wearing them on shoots, wearing them on hikes, wearing them in the rain at St. Patty's Day parades. These were great. These are my go-to boots right now. I will definitely be replacing these probably with another pair of the exact same Boulders, if not a newer version, once these wear out. But being a 100% full grain leather upper, this sole seems like it's going to last me for some time. I think it's going to be a while before I have to replace these boots, and I'm very, very happy with them. These are actually way more comfortable and handled way better than I thought they would. I didn't think that like a mock toe, ZeroDrop, barefoot shoe was going to be for me for hiking, but that packable picture, it just sold me on them. And once I had them and tried them on, I was very, very pleased with both the performance and the comfortability of these boots. Very happy with these. Would definitely buy these again. Plan on getting these again once, or if I can wear these out anytime remotely soon, I'm gonna get another pair of these. Very surprised. Wish I knew about the Lems Boulders sooner. So there we go. If you like this video or any of my other videos, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Smash that big red button and ring that bell right next to it so you get notifications next time I post a brand new video. Good night.